Well, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today for this fun time for me, anyways, during your lunch hour. I'm Carlos Johnson, president-elect of the KBA. But as it relates to this trip, um, I'm from Panama, and so I'm really excited to be able to share with you the origins of this trip, the purpose, and some of the details, and most importantly, to answer any questions that you may have. The beauty of the process that we have is that we have a lot of ability to provide input as to how this ends up looking at the very end in terms of particular interest for excursions or even some of the CLE topics. We certainly, to roll something out, you need to do some pre-planning and anticipate what some of the needs or interests are. But I want you to know that this is early enough in the process that we can shape some of those to make it worth your time and your investment. So just a little bit about myself. It'll be 30 years in September since I came to East Tennessee from Panama. I came to Merrill College to learn English, and then following year in 1995, came over to University of Tennessee. I loved it so much. I've graduated there 3 times, and now I'm there as a full-time faculty member at the College of Law. And so one of the things that happens over that period of time is that you really want your family to meet your friends here in your newfound life in a different country, and vice versa. I want to take my friends here and meet my folks in Panama. So this is sort of the origins of this at a personal level. At a KBA level, of course, I'll be the president next year, and I understand that this is the first trip abroad that the organization will have, and so seemed like a good time to do it. And then I think the other piece of why this seemed like a good idea is that Panama is just an easy place to get to from here. No visa is required for American citizens or permanent residents. You just need a valid passport, and that's valid for 6 months, a return ticket, and you're pretty much good to go. They'll let you right in and let you spend some money, and that money is the dollar. So we don't have an issue of currency exchange or anything to worry about with that. So it's a very, in my view, seamless opportunity, but it's also a whole different world. And so and I think that's what's exciting to me, that you get to sort of get a good, robust taste of what my country is like in a short amount of time while picking up some CLEs. And then something else I want to add to that is that in terms of getting there, is that this trip is immediately following Easter. So if you don't have it in your calendar yet, March 31st is Easter this year, or next year. It falls early in the year. And so cognizant of that, you can get to Panama from a bunch of places, even if you're visiting family. You don't have to be here in Knoxville to join this trip. So Miami, Atlanta, DC, New York, Boston, LA, Houston, Dallas, all of those offer direct flights to Panama these days. Back in the day, it was Miami, and that was it. And then when Atlanta opened up, I was really excited because it was a lot easier to get there with a 4-hour direct flight. So I guess in my view, again, it's just a somewhat of a low-hanging fruit for a bar to start with, but personally, an opportunity to show you my country and hopefully make it worth your while. Let me just slide here to the next screen. In terms of purpose and what you can expect and what I'm expecting, is the primary one for me is some community and connection. By design, we're expecting to get somewhere in the vicinity of 15 to 18 people, because we want the trip to be intimate, manageable, but perhaps offering opportunities for those who are not already connected in our bar to come back with stronger or newer relationships, if that's the case. Also, community and connection in terms of the country itself and the bar there. As you're hearing a little bit, we'll have some opportunities to interact with attorneys there, with the democratic institutions there, with nonprofits that are doing work there. And my hope will be that if one or two connections and networking opportunities arise also from that, that will be a success. In terms of CLE, I think the topics are fun, perhaps uncommon to what we might be used to, but we'll talk about those in a second. What we attempt to do is to incorporate venues that are relevant to those topics, and so have the training, the information delivery within places that are meaningful to that topic, not just in a hotel room as we typically might do, um, but in a different way. So what are that in a nutshell, and probably all of you have seen the brochure at this point. Is that a true assumption? Am I correct in that? So you understand this is a 5-day trip with the first day Monday and the last day Friday, primarily devoted to travel. The 3 days in between, Tuesday through Thursday, being the days that will be split about half and half between CLE and exploration. And again, the CLEs themselves, we want them to be exploratory in the sense of the venues where we meet and the people that we meet during that time. Of course, this is going to include cuisine, and I'm gonna show a little bit about what that might look like. That's important to me whenever I travel. I hope it matters to you, but I want to make sure that we eat well and that we're having a good time while we're taking a trip. Um, a big important topic that you probably already know is that airfare is not included in the prices that you saw in that package. They include our lodging and transportation to and from for the airport and to our CLE meetings and to the excursions, but not getting there. On that vein, I got on the internet this morning, and just to give you a taste of what it might look like, direct flight from Atlanta right now, that Monday through Friday, 604 round trip. If you fly from Knoxville, which is what I would do, it goes down to 519, which is always interesting. Not sure why flying from Knoxville to pick up the flight in Atlanta is cheaper, but it's certainly faster in terms of going through security and all of that. And Nashville goes down to 438 if you are in Middle Tennessee for that time of the year. And then if you happen to be in Florida, Miami's 415, direct flight of about 3 hours. And so there's just want to give you a flavor of what that looks like right now. In my experience, sometime mid-October to mid-November, those will come down some. This is something that you got to put on a tickler with some type of app that you might have, like Hopper or something like that, and they'll come down some. In fact, these are lower than they were 2 days ago when I checked. But today you're looking somewhere between 400 and 600 to get there. In addition to that 5-day core, we are going to offer for those who want to stay for the weekend, or I should say for Friday and Saturday, the whole day, additional opportunities to explore. And so I figured some, maybe most or not, will want to take advantage of being down there already to see some things that are a little of the beaten path and will take longer than getting outside the city. And so, Panama is a narrow country. At its narrowest point is 30 miles. And so what that means is that you can go to the beach in the morning in the Pacific Islands, and you can be in the Caribbean that afternoon and have an equal amount of time to enjoy before getting back to your hotel that evening. In fact, we have some points in the city that some buildings where you can see both oceans from up there. It's kind of fun. But in any case, let me move through some of this. I want to make sure that the majority of our time is left for questions. I have included some pictures here of my most recent trip, which was in December of 21. So coming on 2 years now. And before I get to that, here's some of the CLE topics we're contemplating. These are not all the CLE topics, but I think they're meaningful. Panama is a civil law country versus a common law country. And so there's a lot of room for comparative law. So Panamanian law and government, we also have a democracy, but it's not the same as ours. Constitutionally speaking, it's different. So I think that there's some good learning and value in exploring Panamanian law and government and how that plays out in contrast to ours. Panama and the United States have a long relationship dating back before the canal was finished in 1914. In fact, we are a country because the United States sent a ship to prevent Colombia from denying us independence back in 1903. And so we have a long history. We have the United States had bases there for a long time until noon of December 31st, 1999. Jimmy Carter negotiated that treaty, and so there's a lot in there that I think will be of interest to ourselves as attorneys, but to any guests that might not be attorneys. By virtue of its geographical position, Panama it has a canal, obviously, but also a duty-free zone. And so for years and years and years and decades now, it's being a trade hub. And so for any of you that travel in that field, trade law and Panama being a global gateway is an interesting topic that we can explore. And then we have several native tribes that were there before the Spanish came in the 1490s. And so indigenous rights and then environmental challenges that come along with a tropical forest. It's another CLE topic that we're exploring. And so these are just sort of like broader ideas that we have, and welcome to take some of your suggestions today because that is fluid at this point. What you have in front of you is a Panama flag, as well as our coat of arms. I was reminded as I put this picture of our slogan, which is Pro Mundi Beneficio. It's for the benefit of the world, and it really seems that Panama is sort of played that role because of its geographical position over the years. All right, so this is just a collage of the sites. What the beaches is probably what you would expect. You have the logs there at the bottom left. What you have at the bottom right is the second Panama City. And I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second, which has a sort of like French colonial cobblestone feel, and that will be the location of where we would stay. That will be where our lodging would be. And then on top right, you have, this is called the Bridge of the Americas. And so if you travel by road from Canada to Argentina, this is the bridge that holds together the whole thing. You have to cross through that to go from one end to the other. And that's right over the Panama Canal. So specifically, we'll visit the canal. This is a picture I took when I took my kids in December. This is one of the smaller locks, Miraflores. You can see there that little checkpoint on the left in comparison to that ship. It's sort of fantastic, engineeringly speaking, how those ships go through, but that's always worth seeing and interesting. There's a larger log that is behind this one, and you can see here, but that's a given. I think if you're going to go there, you have to do that. For those of you who stay later during the weekend, it can be an opportunity to actually do the Panama Canal trajectory, which I understand that takes about 6 hours, give it or take, based on the number of ships that are lined up waiting to do that. But that's one of those things. As I mentioned earlier, the three Panama cities, this is what remains of the first Panama City, finished in 1519 by the Spanish conquistadores, destroyed in 1671 by Henry Morgan, the corsair employed by the English crown. There's lots of gold there at the time, and so this is the Tower of the Cathedral that remains there. Super cool place to visit. But that was the first city. This is a picture of the second one, which is established in 1673 after the other one was destroyed. And again, the one that has more of the 1700 colonial feel with cobblestone. It's very walkable. It's I would say it's probably like a 1.5 by 1.5 mile peninsula where this is situated, flanked by oceans on 3 sides. And so you can walk around there. The National Theater is there. The Palace of the Presidency, which is what it's called in Panama, is situated there, as well as many parks and places that it would just be fun to walk around and visit without major efforts of having to get together. So that's what we selected this area as the central hub for the trip. And so this is what the modern city looks like. I was over New York City for the Labor Day weekend, and we were staying on the New Jersey side. And this is a little bit like what Manhattan looked like from the New Jersey side. But several of my friends who have visited have come back and say, I didn't, that's not what I expected. I didn't realize that this is what Panama City looks like. And so it's a cosmopolitan, busy city, always fast. Uh, we can give you a go at trying to drive there and see how you compare that to East Tennessee driving. In fact, I even if you're used to New York City driving, which I did some this last weekend, I would say it's at a different level. So it's lots of fun to be there. But no, lots of opportunities to for nightlife and marinas, as you can see in front of you. And if you've been to Miami, to the Miami Bayfront, I think it has a similar feel to that, with a lot of tropical smells and fish and seafood and that sort of thing, if you like that. So, anyways, not sure if that's how you expected Panama City to be, but that's what it looks like. And I compare that to some of the pictures of Cuba that the TBA went to last year, and it's a very different feel when you're in the city. All right. So, and another place I think that it's important to visit, and this is part of who Panama is the tropical rainforest, and it's right there. Everything is close. That's the thing about Panama. It's very, very close. Everything is really close, but it takes a long, long time to get there because of the traffic and because of the infrastructure. But Gamboa, it's an area that is within the Panama Canal zone, and so the picture on top is a boat where typically monkeys come and climb on your back. Um, and so if you like that type of experience, that's some of what we'll be doing. And then of course you have the canopy type of experience all available to us there. And if you like humidity, you're gonna love it. If you don't like humidity, you're still gonna love it. It's gonna be a little bit sweaty while you're doing that. But I like that we can have the contrast between the urban jungle in which I grew up in Panama City, and then just be a stone throw away from the tropical jungle. Of course, food is one of my favorite parts when I go home. The first picture on the left shows you dim sum. So Panama has a large Chinese colony. We have a little bit of a Chinatown ourselves there, and Panamanian people of all backgrounds, at least the ones who can afford that, it is a treat to go on Sunday mornings and have Chinese breakfast or dim sum. So I did that some growing up. Always fun. Like the real way, where you have the round thing in the middle, and we all share the dishes and get your chopsticks and pick something that you like. And these cards come around, and you get to pick what you want to put on the table for you. So next picture is my father-in-law enjoying his full fried fish with plantains. Lots of plantains in Panama. We used to export them, as well as shrimp, which is the next picture. Ceviche is my favorite. There is a fish market, seafood market next to the second city, which is where we'll be staying, which is walking distance to us. So I imagine we'll wander over there in an evening and have some fresh squid and shrimp ceviche while we're down there. And I think that's probably a pina colada right behind it. Then the last picture here, if I can move this. Okay, so that's my son, Mateo. This is what I call an elevated shaved eyes. So when I was a kid, people will walk around, no, they will come around with the carts with a block about that big of eyes, and they will shave it right in front of you. And you're getting a little paper cone, and I pick your flavor, but what's different and how we do it, which might be a little bit different. I keep telling the people from Kona Ice here, they have to do this. You put a little bit of malt in it and some sweetened condensed milk, and that really takes it to the next level, which is what my son is doing here, one of the marinas, and it's really, really good stuff. So I'm excited about that part, probably more than anything else, frankly. I like eating. Let's see. Okay. So a little bit about the optional weekend for exploration. I wanted to start here just so that we're clear. Panama is this little isthmus between North America and South America, and ties the whole thing together. And that area there in the middle is a canal with 30 miles of width. But it offers us the opportunity to be both here in the Caribbean and then down here in the Pacific. So if anybody here watch the Survivor series at any point, it ran like for 10 years. So Loretta, I figure you would. Um, the Pearl Islands here in what's the South, were one of the settings of Survivor, and they're in Panama. They're accessible, I would say it's a 45-minute boat ride, beautiful beaches, mostly unspoiled. And so that's one of the trips that we're contemplating for Friday or Saturday for those who stay and don't depart on Friday. And then up here, do you all see my cursor moving on your screen? Okay. So up here on our Caribbean coast, Portobello, it's an old Spanish fort that remains that you can explore, but the beaches nearby are more of the Caribbean type. So the waves are calm, the waters are clear. That's what it's a more relaxed type of beach setting than perhaps. So there's plenty of surf competitions in the Pacific side. In contrast, particularly in this peninsula here of Azuero, down here, we have an island actually down here called John Wayne Island. Guess why? Because he owned it many years ago. And so anyways, we would be able to easily get to either of those destinations. There is also an old Dormant volcano called El Valle, or the Valley. It hasn't erupted since anyone can tell. So the land is super fertile, and you have thermal baths, and you can do mud baths, and there's some hieroglyphics and that sort of thing. It rains very mistily in the afternoons. There's a specific name for that called Bajareke. And it's just a cool place. There's just coffee. You can go see coffee beans and drink some fresh coffee made out of those and that sort of thing. So this is what we're contemplating for that weekend. And that brings me to the end here, because it's now 12:25, and I did want the end of this time together to be about answering your questions and make sure that this can work for you. I'll tell you about this picture. I picked this picture, well, because my son's cute, but also that's a true rainbow that we observed down there. I want to call your attention to those two structures right there. These buildings are former barracks of the bases that existed in Panama for decades and decades. And so that land that used to be called the Panama Canal Zone, and you might be familiar with the term Zonians for American citizens who were born there in Panama. These lands have now returned to Panama and have been used mostly for educational purposes. So there's a place called the City of Knowledge, and multiple NGOs, as well as the Panama Ministry of Education, and then some foreign investment, have established educational organizations in this area because the infrastructure was so much better than what we had in Panama. I mean, this area within the bases was developed great. Roads were great. They were wide. Sidewalks, walkable parks like the one that you see here. And so now we've benefited from it, and have created this City of Knowledge space that we visited while we were down there. So I'll be quiet now, and I'd really like to answer any questions at all that you might have, things that I might have left out, which I tend to do when I get excited. Yeah, let me turn it over to you and see what questions you have.
Carlos, I had a question. Would the travel day be April 1?
So that we're counting that as a travel day to get there. Most flights that I've seen get there mid-afternoon. The plan is to have folks get checked in and settle, and then we'll have a welcome dinner and cultural event that evening.
Okay.
I probably will be down there earlier I'm hoping I can take my family. They have a long weekend, Friday through Monday, and so I might go Thursday night. Take advantage of that. And so, if any of you do want to arrive early, I'm certainly happy to connect with you. And then the same is true for Friday, Justice Lee. That we count that as a travel day, except for those who want to stay for the Friday and Saturday excursions. Then we are assuming a Sunday departure.
Okay. Is there even if you wanted to extend a few extra days, is there a country? I mean, is there a place to fly to from there to see? I don't know. Is there something close by that you could hop over to? Just since you're already, I mean, since you're already in the area,
Yep.
is there? I mean, I know.
Yeah. So I mean, I think
Like,
that
what would that be?
yeah, I mean the possibilities are really endless. Frankly, you could either hop on a plane or take a cruise to Cartagena in Colombia, which many Panamanian families do because it's most cruises don't dock in Panama City, so that's an easy destination in the area. Costa Rica, of course, is a really easy destination. That's like a 50-minute flight from Panama City, not very costly. If you do that by land, that's about 6 hours. But I've done that, and I guess for us, 6 hours is, at least for me, 6 hours is not a big deal because I drive 11 and 12 all the time. But the roads are not the same, and so it's a little bit more challenging. But is that what you're asking? If there are other destinations nearby you could
Yeah,
hop on to?
yeah. I'm just thinking. I'm just looking at that map. I just wondered if there's some. So Costa Rica and Colombia.
Those are our neighbors, so those are the easiest ones. There's folks who travel to Aruba from there, which is just north of Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
And Aruba is great. I love Aruba too. Also great destination. Um, and the Caribbean destinations like the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico are not far either. So they're all we're talking about an hour and a half flight. And if I recall correctly, I mean it's probably like a $200 flight, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a random question, but I saw on your map, is it Darien Gap? Am I saying that right? Or Darien Path?
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah,
Oh,
right here.
isn't that the pathway for all these immigrants or refugees coming into the U.S.? And it's like
Yeah.
very dangerous and
So that's an excellent question. That has become the case in the last 5 years or so. Um, 15 years ago, it was just dangerous, period, and nobody would go through it because the guerrillas in Colombia control that,
mhm.
and they had a lot of drug production in the area, and so the Panama's military's role was basically to contain them, so they wouldn't produce beyond that. But yeah, it was known for that. In recent years, plenty of people are traveling through that area. Still dangerous, but because of the changes in Colombia with the guerrilla there, it became less so. And then the Panama military has done more work. It's interesting you mentioned this. I'm going to a meeting in Pulaski tomorrow. UT Southern is connected with some of the indigenous tribes in that area and with nonprofits in that area, and it's bringing some students to study nursing there. And so there's some newer movement in that place. What they haven't been able to do is to extend the Inter-American highway through it. And so you come all the way down from Canada and then you'll be stuck there and you have to take a boat around to get to another part of Colombia and then pick it back up. So it's thick, tropical jungle, and I would say still dangerous, but there are inroads in work that's been done in that area. In fact, that particular NGO that works with the Embera Indians there is one of the ones we would like to target to see if we can meet with them and learn about the work they're doing.
So those people that go through that gap, do they go all the way up then to Panama City and all the way up then to Costa Rica?
They typically do. The one, at least the ones that I know of, they continue to Central America by land.
Okay, that's really off topic, but I've been
No,
reading about
it's a
and
current
get
topic that
out.
I imagine, yeah, we would cover on that. Yeah, it's it's funny, Panama's functioned as a gateway for years for different reasons. And
Mhm.
that was not the original, but in the past was trade. In the past was gold from the West Coast through Panama, through a railroad to our Caribbean side to come to our East Coast here in the United States. So at the same time that the 49ers were building a railroad over there in the West Coast, the same was happening in Panama. And some of those Chinese immigrants are some of my ancestors. I have some of that blood that runs from that time. Other questions?
I had a question about the optional weekend excursion. So I know you mentioned 3 places you all are thinking about. So is the thought that we would go to one of those places and stay for, I guess, Friday and Saturday?
No, thank you, Regina. And sorry, I had not seen you on the call until now.
I was late. I'm sorry.
No, not at all, not at all. Thank you for that question. Actually, no. So there will be optional excursions both days, so Friday and Saturday, which could be different. But I will say this: so what we would like to do once we get a critical mass of people who are ready to go is to get together and discuss those options. I mean, we want to make them work for the folks who are coming, and if there's an interest in one, and so for example, here's a possible scenario. Did you hear me talk about the valley, the volcano, El Valle earlier?
Yes, I did.
All right. So for example, that's on the way to some of our Pacific side islands in this area right here that I'm highlighting with my cursor. It would make perfect sense for us to either in the way there or the way back to spend the day and a night there, and then continue to the beach. Or maybe you'll feel like coming after winter, you just want to spend 2 days at the beach. Would that be cool too? But I think that what I'm saying is that's not on stone. So we have flexibility in arranging those in a way that works for our group. And so now we have a group of 30 people, and there's some clearly separate interests. We can also accommodate those, either on a 2-day or on a 1-day basis.
Okay, great. And I guess we would fly out of Panama City, though. We'd probably go back there to fly out.
That
Do you
is
think?
correct.
Okay.
That's our international airport.
Okay.
We also have another airport here on our highlands. So this area that I'm highlighting, where it says that you see the word David, and Volcan. This is where there's a lot of expats. So this is where they buy land because it's cooler. You can probably get into the 50s, maybe, but it's cooler. And so there is also an airport here, but I just call it regional. I know they fly to Costa Rica. So if somebody, for example, wanted to do that and we were in that area, you do that. But the international airport is here. So I would assume most people would have to return here. And all that we cover for that. For the price of that excursion, transportation to and from airport, and yeah, go to the yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Good questions. And I think the important part is that we'll have so we have ideas, but we don't want to design or put those in stones without your input. I mean, the point is for those who come to really enjoy it and get the most out of it. So other questions?
Carlos, if you arrive early, so let's say you come down on the Saturday or the Sunday, do you think that there will be availability for the same accommodations you have for the conference earlier? Will you be able to arrange, some rooms when you kind of have an idea of who's coming down or something to where you don't have to jump hotels before? It makes sense if you stay later going somewhere else, but
yeah. So Keith, I don't know the answer to that because I know that, and I mentioned failed to mention this earlier. We are working with a organization called CLE Abroad, which is the same company that took the TBA to Cuba and have taken the national bar elsewhere. They're going to Ireland next year. So we had a lot of confidence in what they do. I mean, intuitively, you know how when you have a conference, you expand those that rate a couple of days before and after. So I don't see why that will be an issue, but I can give you definite until we contact those the lodging, the accommodations there. But we can certainly, I'm willing to explore that.
Yeah, it would certainly be of interest, because if it turns out being
and you think
more
Saturday,
economical,
you think like Saturday and Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
yeah, just Saturday and Sunday for me. I'm thinking if it's a better rate to fly down a few days earlier, and you get a little bit more, get settled in, maybe see some other things.
Yeah.
And again, I could understand that you're responsible for getting your own transportation. I assume that they have cabs if you don't want a car, or Ubers, or different things like that.
Certainly.
That you get to where you need to go. But and then if you stay later with the group, then there'll be some sort of transportation to get you back to the airport.
Absolutely.
When you're leaving. Okay.
That's right. If you sign up for one of the optional excursions, that will be provided. I will ask that question, and I will make sure that we'll go ahead and explore that, if we can have that rate up to Friday prior, and then through Saturday night, unless any of you are planning to stay more than that full 10 days.
And Carlos, you said, I guess it'd be 4-star or 5-star hotels. Do you have any of the hotel names yet to look at, or is that still kind of up in the air?
So I don't, and here's how. So what we're contemplating is I'm not a travel agent, but in that field, there is a top tier 4 and a lower tier 5, which are somewhat close to each other. As it's been explained to me, and there are a number of hotels in that range. So the point being that there's this dynamic pricing that goes on, and the sooner we secure, then the better rate we will get with any of those. So it's open in the air at this moment. What I can do is find a name for something that's like this type of thing, so you have an idea of what that means. I'll ask this question, Keith, for myself. So what's the difference, right? Like, is it worth me paying $300 extra for the lower tier 5-star than the top tier 4-star? And the impression I've gotten is that line is pretty thin between the two, but some of you that travel more than me might have a better idea on that. That's at least the answer that I've gotten. But if you look at the prices already, you're looking at $300 difference. And so maybe we can identify what you'll get for those 300. I can do that and follow up with it. Tammy, are you on the call? Maybe not.
I am. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. No, I just want to make sure that we get the names of everyone who's on the call, so I can follow up on these questions.
Yeah, I'll send you a list. I can do that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah.
I have one more question, and you may have answered it. I got on the call about when you were talking about airline prices. So is everything covered except for airfare in the pricing that was provided in the email?
Yeah, almost everything. So let me point to something that have been asked before, which is meals. Have you had a chance to look at the brochure yet, Regina?
I haven't looked at the brochure. I just looked at the email that was sent, but I didn't look at that yet. Okay.
So there, I think second, third page there has at a glance, you have breakfast, lunch, dinner designations in it. Most meals are covered. The evening meals, we've left them open to provide the flexibility that folks who wanted to gather in a smaller group could explore some of the particular food they want to taste while they're there. I certainly plan to have places that I want to go to with the group those 2 nights, but it will be optional in that sense. So because they're optional, they're not covered. There's 2 nights, the Tuesday and the Wednesday night for dinner.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Carlos, can you said you're going to invite a group to go with you. Obviously, there would be interest in going to restaurants you think are your favorite restaurants there. But can you put together a list of these restaurants or the restaurants that I love or the best for these things in the area, sort of as a local guy?
In terms, yeah, and then it will be in terms of cuisine, I think. I mean, like, it's like Carlos's favorites, and there's like top 3 Italian, top 3 Greek. If you want to go off the beaten path and have some of the Chinese colony places, here's where you can do it. Yeah, that's part of what we'll provide.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Yeah. Other questions? So Regina, as in terms of airfare, I spoke earlier about the prices this morning. Atlanta is a direct flight, 4-hour direct flight, it's $600 right now. You fly from Knoxville, it's not a direct flight. You go pick up the Atlanta flight, but it's only $519 for whatever reason that is. If you are in the Nashville area, it goes down to $438. And then Miami is all the way down to $415 if you happen to be in South Florida. But I also said that if any of you have used one of those tracking apps like Hopper, this in my experience, these prices fluctuate down between mid-October and November. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you can get a flight in the 400s from Knoxville or from Atlanta.
Okay, great. That's not bad at all.
Is that American? Do you normally fly American Air or Delta?
So it depends. For Atlanta, I normally fly Delta because they have the direct flight in and it's affordable. Prior to Delta and Atlanta, I had to fly through Miami or Houston, and Miami would be American Airlines. I guess that's one of their hubs. Houston will be United. So it just depends on the hub that you're using. But Delta will be Atlanta for the direct flight, and so the Knoxville flight that I mentioned would connect you with that Atlanta flight. It leaves here really early, and gets you to Atlanta early, and then you are in Panama for lunch, basically.
Are you saying that's Delta?
That's Delta.
See, I pulled up Delta this morning, well, the other day too, and today it's showing a basic Delta flight leaves it at 5:35 a.m. It's like $929.
From Knoxville or from Atlanta?
Knoxville. And but the American flight is like 5:38 or something, which
and it's going to Miami, probably from here to Miami.
Yeah, it's just something not quite right about that.
Yeah, I mean,
that much difference. I think something's wrong.
At the end of the day, I'll use the most economical one that is not doesn't keep me flying for 24 hours.
Right.
Because that's the problem with those two. I don't want 4 connections and 24 hours of travel, so I'll hit it somewhere in the middle. But
okay.
But yeah, if it's American, I typically go from here to Miami, which is fine. I mean, if you're gonna go to Atlanta, you can go to Miami and pick it down there. Well.
Okay, I'll check them. Check them all.
Questions? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Regina.
I'm sorry. I noticed you're recording. So will people be able to watch this? Can they access this later? I had a couple friends who weren't able to make it and are interested. So
yeah, absolutely. That's the whole intention of that. Okay. And we'll send out a follow-up email and say, thanks for coming. Those of you who were not able to be here, here's a recording that might answer some of your questions or maybe prompt some new ones. I sincerely do mean the piece about getting your input to shape the trip. I mean, I think once if the overall concept is sounding good to you and we're gonna go for this, once we get a group of 12-15 people, we'll get the CLE folks on the call and talk about, here's something that I like to get out of this. And again, it could be the beach, it could be I want an island experience, or I want to go hike and see the hieroglyphics in the valley and get covered with mud. We can do that. It's just we have some ideas that are doable, that are day trips. The beach certainly is an overnight trip that we can do if you want to do 2 days there. But there are other things that we can, and if you really want to go far, we can go into the highlands, and it's a different experience. And you're looking at flowers and strawberries and that sort of thing. So I just want to, what I want to say is that those who sign up will have an opportunity to shape what we do, and I think that's important. It's not going to be probably like 65 people group that with too many divergent desires. Other questions? Nobody has asked about CLEs. I thought that was the whole reason why you all wanted to go, right? Forget like the sightseeing.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll say something about CLE. The way it's being designed is so that the topics are of interest to any guest that you might bring as well. We know CLEs and we know how they can be in some areas more than others, but they're broad enough that there's value for the attorneys, but there's also interest for those who are not attorneys. And then again, because we're planning to host them in the Ministry of Foreign Relations, for example, or the U.S. Embassy in Panama, because of the connections we have there, or at the Supreme Court building down there. There's some added value to them, not just having the CLE at a hotel conference room. So hopefully that will work if you want to bring any guests. The other thing I will say in terms of discounts is that if you sign up, or if you put down your $750 deposit before September 30th, which I think is a Saturday, then there's a $150 automatic discount for you. So that's just like early bird discount to provide an incentive for that early sign up and start getting some more concrete figures on the numbers of people that will be coming, start arranging transportation, hotels, that sort of thing. Let's see. Roy, Mike, who else I haven't heard from? Anyone else have any other questions? Good deal. So moving forward, the plan is we'll provide this video, make it available for your friends. Certainly, I ask for your assistance in getting the word out. Now, from a personal perspective, maybe something intrigued you about anything I said. I am available for your specific questions moving forward at any point. But we'll provide this video. September 30th, we'll see how we're doing and see how many people take advantage of the incentive there. And then hopefully we reach critical mass and go ahead and schedule a meeting, circulate tentative times that can work for all of you who have signed up to discuss more specifically what you want to get out of it. What do you want to go see? It'll be then our job to arrange the transportation and the meals and that sort of thing involved with it. So, last chance. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Oh, what's that? Somebody say something? Oh, okay. So with that, thank you again. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you having questions. Please do reach out if there's something that I can do to make this work for you and your friends. And hopefully we'll see you soon, and then we'll see you next year down in Panama.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you, Carlos.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.